Elizabeth Warren has released her plan for Medicare for all, and she says no taxes on the middle class, and I'm pretty sure she's lying. I mean, technically you can say no new taxes, but I'm pretty sure her plan would increase Medicare tax, which the employer pays half of. That's my understanding. I could be wrong about this, but I digress. That's less important. Elizabeth Warren's plan would be $52 trillion over 10 years. And she's offering up a really, really great incentive to go along with it. Stripping 2 million jobs from the economy. Her plan is BS. Please stop. I'm so sick of the lies and the liars who just want power and they lie, they lie, they lie. Her plan makes no sense. You can't simultaneously say you're not going to tax the middle class, but then go on and brag about employer Medicare taxes, which is divided between the employee and the employer. You know what? I could be wrong about that, but let's just put it this way. Let's set that aside. You're going to take 2 million jobs away from people. Then they're not going your plan makes no sense. Okay. You're going to take away jobs. That's going to reduce a ridiculous amount of spending, which will reduce a ridiculous amount of tax revenues. It is not like you can just, they think they can just be like, if we tax this, we have money. No. Taxes come from, the economy is about moving money. Taxes in between. The bigger picture is the wealth tax she's proposing. It's a finite resource. Think about it. Jeff Bezos has wealth. If you're taxing his wealth, eventually his wealth dwindles, and over a long enough period of time, there's nothing left to tax. Distributing that wealth results in no one having wealth. And I get it. Bernie said, his plan would be like to get rid of billionaires or whatever. Okay. Then how do you pay for any of this? If your plan is to use a wealth tax for the long term, but it's a short-term tax that just gets rid of a wealthy individual, then eventually you run out. If you want real tax revenue to pay for these things, you can't just take away jobs and tax the rich. It's ridiculous. Let's read the story from the Daily Caller. Elizabeth Warren says cost of Medicare for all could be 2 million lost jobs. Oh, how about that? They say in an interview with New Hampshire Public Radio, the Democratic presidential contender said she concurs with a study from the University of Massachusetts Amherst that said socialized medicine would probably have a devastating impact on those working in the current private healthcare industry. Warren called that part of the cost issue. Let me rephrase that for you, Elizabeth. Collateral damage. How many of you watching work for, in some capacity, insurance companies or, medical sales and things like that? Would you vote for Elizabeth Warren when she's promising to end your job? Where will you work? What are you an expert in? No, let me ask you something. Listen. Let's say you are a senior level manager at an insurance company. Well, when she gets into office and starts imposing her will with Medicare for all, I understand there could be a potential net benefit. But 2 million lost jobs, for me, that doesn't sit so well. I personally would love universal health care. I don't think you can do it this way. And I'll say you can't do it this way. It's just fairy tale. It would be great if we got to a point where we had a system that could function, but the cost they're proposing, it's ridiculous, and there are a lot of problems, which makes me more of a realist. We can do a public option because that functions very similar to private insurance. This makes no sense. Imagine you're a senior level employee. You've been working in the medical industry and insurance and things like this for a decade. Your job is now gone. Where do you go? You could probably go to another insurance-related field. But your specialty, your expertise, what brought you purpose, what gave you value, no longer exists. That's the problem with snapping your fingers to impose these massive changes. So you could theoretically argue over time we will wean our society. So great, public option, first and foremost. And I think in the short term, we'll see the public option offer up competition to the private sector, and that can be a good thing. It's complicated. I'm not an expert, but I can tell you this plan is ridiculous. She says, although do recognize on this what we're talking about, how much of our healthcare dollars have not gone to healthcare? Yes, you know what? I'm so sick of these. It's just like short-sighted, small-minded people. Let me tell you a story. Let me rebut what she's saying. How much of our healthcare dollars have not gone to healthcare? Okay. I used to work for a nonprofit, and when we raised $1, only about 50% of that dollar actually went to charitable causes. The other 50% was administrative, wasn't actually going to the cause. And we had to legally tell that people when they asked. Now, one of the reasons I got out of the nonprofit industry is because of how slimy they were. And so they said, just tell people those numbers are old and we're updating, but trust us, it's way better. I said, that's not true. I'm not going to say that. So I was out with an employee because I was a director and I was training them. We were talking to a guy. We did the street canvassing, like, hey, come talk to us. And he said, how much? He's like, if I give you $100, how much of this is actually going to go to the charity? And the guy I was training said 50%. And the donor, the potential donor, was like, 50%? What do you mean? So I'm going to give you $50. Where's that going? And I showed him our card, which showed how much money we donated. And I said, see that number? The total number is like $1 million. And I was like, that $1 million in administrative costs is what's required to make sure we can actually work and raise money. It's not perfect, but you could consider that money going to the cause in the sense that we're out here talking to you about it and we're using, that money to basically fund our ability to raise money for this cause. But I'll do you one better. See the other number? The amount that's actually gone to charity? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, could be zero. And the guy was like, no, that would be bad. I'm like, that would be bad, right? Here's the problem. When it comes to healthcare, it's true. There's a lot of shaving off the top. There's a lot of profits and things I don't agree with. But the problem with how they view these situations is that it's like they're looking at it over their shoulder from 2 miles away. They have no idea how this functions. They have no idea how the day-to-day operations work. Yet they want to control and change everything. So they'll take your job away. And then they're saying, how much of our dollars aren't even going to healthcare? Dude, I'll tell you what. The lady who has to file the paperwork to track your allergies. Sure, we can say that's not healthcare. That's an important part of the process. Okay. Maybe you'll argue, no, Tim. Filing the paperwork to track is part of the healthcare. Okay. Then the person who doesn't work at the hospital, who transports, natural gas or whatever to the building so that it can operate and makes sure that certain parts of the building are facilitated, those are not part of healthcare, right? Building maintenance? No, they'll say, no, that is a part of healthcare. So then what are you really talking about? Insurance companies? Yeah, that is a part of healthcare. Even if you get rid of this, you will still have to have bureaucrats running administrative jobs. So what's your point about this? When people work in the infrastructure of healthcare, it's an important part of the process. Let me ask you something. Elizabeth Warren's $52 trillion healthcare plan. Wow, it's even more than we expected it was going to be. 30 over 10 years? Nope, 52. Her campaign argues that her plan incorporates current Medicare and Medicaid spending, so it would only need $20.5 trillion in additional federal funding. $52 trillion. And you know what she's saying? First, she talks about getting rid of tax avoidance schemes. Okay, that makes no sense. Tax avoidance is not illegal. Tax evasion is illegal. But if somebody opens a company in a foreign country, what are you going to do about it? So let's differentiate here. Tax evasion, illegal. Tax avoidance, I think we're colloquially referring to the fact that someone can start their company in Ireland and pay different taxes, right? What does that mean, avoidance? Are you talking about the crime? Okay, I agree. Let's close the loopholes and let's figure out how to stop the crime. Great. You can't. You can't overall stop the process because it is ridiculously easy for anyone to say, I'll run my company out of China. They'll take it. I'll pay less. Delaware. You don't want to pay California, you move to Delaware. But I'll tell you, I'll do you one better. You want to talk about this? If the wealth tax is such a good idea, why did Europe kill theirs? That's right. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's a finite resource. Elizabeth Warren's plan is an illusion. It's a magic trick. It makes no sense. It'll work for 10 years and then stop working. Once you tax billionaires out of existence, who do you tax? The middle class. Now I get it. They want equality. They don't like wealthy people. They don't like billionaires. Fine. But if you tax wealth, over time, there won't be wealth. It's a finite resource. The important factor here is, using Bezos as an example, and that's what I said last time. He's worth $117 billion or whatever. Okay. He's got to pay $7 billion towards Warren's plan. Okay. That means he'll have to liquidate $7 billion in stock. A $7 billion sale directly from the founder of Amazon is going to result in a stock drop-off, reducing his net worth and his tax liability for the next year. And it's going to make him it's going to make it harder and harder to pay. But net worth is not money. So if in a short period of time Bezos sells, he can make some money. If over a long period of time, if he's selling a little bit. If he dumps it all really fast, then the stock drops, his net worth gets cut in half, and then he pays less. And guess what? Your projections make no sense. So no, I don't think any of this makes sense. It'll never happen. Obama promised it. It's a pipe dream. You can't do it this way. Let's look at what the moderates are offering. More competition in the market through a public option. Let's talk about something realistic. This ain't it. I'll leave it there. I got one more segment coming up in a few minutes. Stick around, and I will see you all shortly.